I'll be calling you radical kitties. Let's get out our globe and let's talk about the pseudo-nuts, the algae bloom that is devastating the mammals here in SoCal. And it's tourist season. There's so many deaths that the rehab centers can't even load them up. So they're just putting a big paint blob on them. So but don't scare the tourists. I was just looking at PB because I'm headed to Southern California because I want to get some low tides. And so I'm just looking, rooms with dead mammals washing up under there going for $500 a night, literally. So replace the tide pools with, so stay with me. This is important, kids, because we've got to have third grade every day because this is how belligerent the marine biology world is. Well, the American media didn't tell us. It must not have happened. Fukushima, Japan, right here. Full blown out meltdowns. And everybody covered it up. Helen Caldicott said it was Japanese were tidy people. They cleaned it up. Chris Busby says the Pacific Ocean's a big place. It'll dilute. Arnie Gundershield called it a hydrogen blast for 7 years. The IAEA in Vienna didn't even rank it a 7 until 6 years after the fact. What, only a 7? Who sets it? The scale only goes to 7. Yep, you got that right. Who says the scale for it? So here's the Japanese current. Now stay with me. I knew all my work I did at this university all these years. Here. That's the number one school of business in the country, Nuclear U, in the belly of the beast. I was doing the due diligence in all the reactors. And, that's when I exposed that the spent fuel pools were building up and wasn't going to go into Yucca Mountain. And everybody's like, yeah, it has to go into Yucca Mountain. And I'm like, these spent fuel pools can't even handle a 7.6. The cores on these, I developed models in the late 80s and the early 90s. The cores couldn't handle a Mach 1, Mach 2 GE. That's what they were at Fukushima, Japan. They couldn't handle a 7.7. It was a 9. I was in the Energy Solutions dump site protesting Mike Lee bringing the Italian waste, who later told me, I just found out my dad's a dumb waste. This is after the fact. His dad died really young of leukemia. They don't care. Kamala Harris's mother died, Livermore. Barack Obama's father. I mean, everybody, all these people have a loved one who died from, this great, clean, green, cheap nuclear energy. As you know, I have the nuclear bomb disease, Sudoku, folding paper cranes would call it. So stay with me. Here's the reactors. So they blew. So Anderson Cooper, Sanjay Gupta are there for CNN on boots on the ground. They're talking to a guy named Adam Walsh who claimed he was nuclear. He wasn't. He hadn't a clue. These meltdowns, they said nuclear meltdown hundreds, if not thousands of times. The first 6 days, the wind was blowing out over us. Now we know from Hillary Clinton's leaked emails that take a shower, don't take a chance. The plume's going over us. Do not take a chance. Obama said on the 17th, the scientists are telling the plume is safe. It's commercial right now. He was flown to Argentina, and we'll keep you abreast. Never mention it again until on Jimmy Kimmel, and he called it a typhoon. And so, anyway, you catch my drift. So, Japanese current right here. There's a little eddy right here, flows right into the current. Now, we know the data because I'm the guy that leaked it out on the KOA international study that we're keeping secret. Somebody leaked it to me in June of 2011. In June of 2011, I'll post it, it came out that they were taking sample sets 40 kilometers off the coast of Fukushima. This is June of 2011. 25 meters, 50 meters, and 100 meters down. They took 3 sample sets. The first one was double the background. Now, do we have to explain background level? I guess so. Background level is from the Bikini Atoll bombs, blew all the bombs here, all the bombs in the Polygon in Russia, it's our bomb, but, all the nuclear, as we nuked ourselves in the ocean, we know the background level. We know it. So, of nuclear fallout, because we have tracer elements, including cesium-137. So cesium-137, the background tracer elements, in the first sample set, this is June 2011, leaked out. Ken Buehler's name's on that study. You look it up, I'll post it. International study they kept hid. First sample set, double the background level. 3 times the background. You're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I believe the second sample set was 50 times the background level. Yeah. The third, I think, was 100 times. But anyway, I'll post it. You know, they were gargantuous, incredible radicals. I leaked it out before the conclusion was written. The conclusion was written then in June of 2011. These are full-blown out meltdowns. We feel the fallout from Fukushima is already into the Japanese current and into the biosphere, and there's no stopping it. Now, we know that the cores, and no one's ever got to, and as you know, I named it Del Mar Argentina syndrome. Why? Let's go all the way through the Earth. Straight shot through the Earth. There's Del Mar Argentina. We know that China syndrome is real because of Fukushima. Now, there were 3 or 4 cold meltdowns, 7 spent fuel pools, 6 at each reactor, and the common spent fuel pool. Some of them had MOX fuel because MOX fuel is illegal. We brought it back in here, then back to Savannah River, then to Whippet, New Mexico. So it blew up. The wind blew out for 6 days over us. The day the wind was shifting, Anderson Cooper and Sanjay Gupta came home. Never mentioned it again. Well, Sanjay Gupta, the practice MD, mentioned it on Sanjay Gupta MD on a Saturday morning, March 25th, when he was talking, using the 11-year-old innuendo, oh, it's all good, it's all good. They pulled the transcript. I got it back up. But anyway, so the wind shifted. That's when they made the decision to dump water on it. Nearly 5,000 days later, well, it's over 4,500 days later, they're still dumping water on it. They've never got to these cores. Never. The spent fuel pools, they lied, blew all to smithereens into the jet stream. We know everything that's happened here. So Kevin Blanche, the biologist, is screaming, going crazy. These are full-blown meltdowns. They're lying. They're lying. I knew they were meltdowns. I knew. I'm the only person on Earth that reported the reality of what the truth was. No wonder they went after. It's going to give you cancer. Oh, I got cancer. I got cancer in. I went in the bone marrow transplant on 11/11/11, 3 of them. We call this 3/11. So remember a couple years ago when the trench right here. This is called the Japanese trench. Do we have to explain the deep trenches in the ocean? The Japanese trench goes here. Remember when everything, this is the peninsula, the Russian peninsula. Yeah, this is Russia right here. Japan's right there. That's Russia. That's Alaska. They almost what? Remember we bought it for 2 cents? So remember when everything washed up dead right there? And the surfers were saying we could feel burning in our eyes, we could sit on our tongues, blah, blah, blah. And then the minister came all the way from Moscow to here and just cried. He says, I never seen anything like it. You know, everything was washed up dead, everything. Just another coincidence. So in here, Kevin Blanche says, look, it's going to get the jet stream. So a bridge, an overpass from Fukushima, Japan, made it to here, to Gold Beach, land a whole overpass, an automobile overpass, not a walking bridge, I think in 6 or 7 days. When I was walking the coast full of cancer, I used to find so much Fukushima debris, it'd blow your mind. I have a Fukushima worker's helmet I found in San Diego. So this current is very fast. Get my northern drift. It goes into the Japanese current, swirls up into Bristol Bay, it splits, goes all the way down. It's very quick. We've got cesium-137 in the tuna in the summer of 2011 in San Diego. Dr. Abrams of Stanford was reporting that he was picking up cesium-137 in 2011 and 2012 in his caged tuna. He's since passed away. So it isn't like... So RadNet, the radiation detection network that was all over here, when it blew, magically, they took it offline. Gina McCarthy was head of RadNet. They took it offline. That's an unarguable fact. Then, of course, Obama raised the legal limits multiple times. Trump basically got rid of them. I mean, I still go back to a B. What happened to B blows my mind. He was not prime minister when Fukushima happened. He was not. Nato Khan in Del Mar, California, bowed to me and told me, thank you, Kevin Blanche, for all your work. I wasn't censored in Japan. If you don't believe me, you ask Kathy Iwani, you ask Rachel Godoya. You know, go ask them. By the way, I'll be there in San Diego ASAP. And so I'm going to document this algae plume on some low tide. So I'll be there in the next couple of days, you know, depending on when I get my flight. Rooms are so psycho there, right? I'll figure it out. So the plume, the algae plume. Now, this is important. Stay with me. The algae plume is called Pseudo-Nietzsche. Nuts. So pseudo, what does pseudo mean? Direct translation. Pseudo is Latin. My uncle Argyle taught me. I can read Latin. I mean, I'm educated. Pseudo means not genuine. So what's happened? And this is unarguable. Kevin Blanch's first hypothesis, they're going to push this in the Pacific Ocean. Big fish eat little fish. Jim stream moves left to right. It's going to cause a heat bubble over the western United States, which I named the Great North American freaking heat bubble, which it did for 10 years. It's going to get into the trees, I said. It's going to get into the pine needles, hold radiation in their needles. I'm the first guy that started reporting the trees were going. And talk about fires. It caused a heat, just the greatest drought in 1,200 years here. I said the Great Salt Lake's going to go dry. So the heat bubble last year, which was parked right here, went, whew, it just moved. It's here. It's unarguable science now. I mean, I named it the heat dome in 2011. I says, they're going to push this in. It's going to break the photoplankton. It's going to, at the plutonic level, it's going to fracture at the plutonic level. Big fish eat little fish. Now let's get out fuku and fufu. So, what's that? Fufu, the well Coco. Coco's a San Diego guy. What's that? You have last month caught, your cousins got caught, some rockfish, 18,000 becquerels of cesium 137 per kilogram in your flesh, 1,800 times over the raised so-called legal limits in Japan. You're off the coast. You look a little mutated, Fuku. What's that? Oh, I didn't know that wells were plankton feeders, filters. Oh, I thought they were all freaking great whites. No, those are sharks. Oh, I thought they were orcas, killer whale. No, grays, blues, humpbacks are filter feeders. They have photoplankton, zooplankton, tomato. So it's an eco chain. And Kevin Blanch, in the early days, I says, look, it's going to break the chain. I says, the first thing that will go was the starfish. Everybody laughed at me. I'm the first guy that physically started saying we can see the plume. You could physically see it. We used to call it the blob. You physically see it black. I'm the first guy. John Kirk up there on the border, the Canadian border, was calling me. He had a paddleboat. He says, you could physically see it. You know, it was killing the photoplankton, whatever was in the ocean acutely. So my hypothesis was they were going to push water into this, and this energy was going to knock out the photoplankton, the zooplankton, and was going to cause a chain reaction. So I says, the starfish will go first. Everybody used to laugh at me. I walked the whole coast of California because I was given 2 months to live in 2011, the same year, another coincidence, with AML leukemia. De novo, given 2 months to live. I mean, what a journey. I've had open heart surgery twice, blah, blah, blah. So as I'm walking, I'm getting all these tide pools at a historic low, which I've done. I've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of low tides on the most historic low tides, some of the lowest tides in 50 years. And I'm in them. I've got them. And I'm showing you how wiped out the tide pools, and they were healthy in 2010. They crashed, just like, okay, Kevin Blanch was right on that. So salmon. I says, salmon live in the sea. Most people don't know this. So I says, the salmon will start to class, but the steelhead will go first. Steelhead, yes, they're salmon. They live in the ocean. Their first time back there is called half-pounders. They go to sea 1 to 2 years. I says, they'll start to clash on Q 2012 because they go to sea 1 to 2. Oh, did they? Off a cliff, but the Chinook salmon go to sea for 5 years on average. I'm like, they won't collapse till 2016. So we count every salmon. We have the sonar on the Kenine, on the Fraser, on the Columbia, on the Rogue, on the Deschutes, on the Jedediah Smith, which has no dams. And it's in symphony with the rest of them. On the Chinook salmon, on the Kenine, just came in at 1,975 for the year with no fishing. I mean, it's a catastrophe. You know, that's down 95% post-Fukushima. So everybody's like, well, record returns. Army Corps Engineers, which is part of the Department of Energy, which were both spun out from the Department of Atomic, which they still are. Just pork. They own the world. Don't say the F word. So I'm like, they're doing videos. Look at this, the live cam on the Columbia. They bought it online. By the way, the live cam's been out for 8 years now on the Armed Corps, and they classified Kevin Blanch. It's an arguable fact. Oh, wow. Well, I don't know how. I don't think it's. Well, I know it's not legal. So they're grandstanding with the takeout. The fishermen can take half with gill nets. They can net. They can fish in front of the net. They can take up to half. So if you take the netting, and in 2015, 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, just records on all these, on the kings, on the Chinook salmon. I'm like, they'll crash in 2016. The Columbia, who's the mighty drainage, who goes all this drainage goes into the Columbia, 2.5 miles wide, that beast. They had 1.4 million after the takeout. With the takeout, around 3 million. Big, hallowed beasts. 3 million fish. So I'm like, will you believe me when they crashed in 2016? All the fishermen, everybody's like, oh, they crashed in 2016. They're just down 95% on all the said rivers that I just talked about. They live in the ocean. It's not a pasture. They live here. They just come here to spawn. Little fries, back out. Run all the way into Idaho, run all the way to Oregon, Washington, this incredible run. What a nightmare. No fishing on the Kenai. And there's 1975 when just 6 years ago, there was 10 times that. So the well migration, the grays go here, all the way they birth here, and then back. So the humpbacks here go all the way here to Hawaii. They go down to the Hawaiian Islands, and that's where they birth there on Christmas time. They're having huge comebacks. Great numbers are really happening till 2011. 2013, 14, I'm starting to hypothesize. I'm standing right here at PB Point, and I'm telling Lisa, what are you doing? I'm watching for the well collapse is going to start this year, 2014, 15. So my post-ignorance army, we counted, believe it or not, this is a true story, we counted 311 dead wells, all starved to death, and then they're cutting them with chainsaws. We'll get back to you, blah, blah, blah. So that started to collapse. I'm like, they're filter feeders, they're starving to death, and everybody's, we don't know why. And so all we've heard the whole time, scientists are mystified, they're baffled, they're stumped, they're perplexed, they're bewildered. That's all we've heard. Well, they can't all have the golden handcuffs. Well, they can if it's new. I guess they do. And so it's a giant starvation event, which I hypothesized that in March of 2011. This is going to cause an energy. It's going to go in here. It's going to break the photoplankton at the platonic level. Now, what happens, kids? Stay with me. And this is the algae plume. What happens? Why is the algae plume getting so bad? And this is important because the algae plume, they're saying, is 200 miles out off the coast. Now, the algae plume, which is called Pseudo-Nietzsche, it's a Latin word, not genuine. It's getting bigger and longer. Now, what we're seeing wash up on the beaches in California, that's the tip of the iceberg, because we don't know what's out on the Channel. I can't believe no one's reported from the Channel Islands and on these places. So, but you get urban runoff. Urban runoff mixes in with all the other toxins in the sea, creates this toxic soup. So now we call this the ocean. Most biologists call it a broth. I call it a soup. It's a soup. It needs to be misty. I used to give my class, I used to call it a cloud. It's like a big cloud. It's got to be cloudy. It's got to be full of rain. It's got to be full of all these nutrients. And that's how the whales live. You know how much nutrient a well, 60,000 pounds? Well, you know how much photoplankton? They're filter feeders. That's how they eat. That's how they live, just like, and so the starfish went first. And everybody argued with me and laughed at me. They don't argue now. They're like, yeah, 2011. Every time there's any kind of outbreak and the science has finally got on it, 12 years after fact, it points to 2011. So this acute wipeout, catastrophe. So we have what we call regressionary models. You can run them on a computer right here. You can take, and I have done it. I've built computer models. We have the data. Why? Because Kevin Blanch's work. We know we have the starfish data. It's unarguable. The starfish along here, I find some starfish. I guarantee I find. I know where to look, by the way. I know the best places. But they're down 95%. That's unarguable science. Now, the Monterey Aquarium used to laugh at me. We know the wells are epically collapsing. It's unarguable data. But, cancer rates skyrocket 2012. Hippolaus, we can't talk. Well, I can talk. I was one of them. But we count every salmon because they're a commodity. We have sonar. on every one of these rivers, and it gets reported into websites and databases every single day. And I've been a reporter there. I used to call them, just hammering. Army Corps engineers tried to play all kinds of games. Oregon bypassed them on the Columbia. We have the data. We have 12 years of the data now, so you can plug regressionary model into a computer screen. Okay, you can plug it in. You can run regressions. God, it's pretty bad that we got to get the good information in California off foreign media. So if you run regressionary models now, we know that there was an acute, so you run through the computer cycles and it'll deviate from the mean a million times. You can look on the computer, I don't care what model you build, you plug in all the Satadema. From the Jedediah Smith, no dams, Deschutes, the Rogue, the Mighty Columbia, the Fraser in British Columbia, the Kenine, all of them. You can plug the data in and run regression, and it shows, it will deviate that something, we call this an outlier. It will show 2011. It'll pop up unarguable radical 2011. Same with the heat bubble over the West Night. Same with the fires, the Fuktonium, and I named it Fuktonium. This soup that you push in, the urban runoff, with the what I named Fuktonium. It's a gas. It's a plasma, as I named metal bron. Then some freaking Einstein, and so what happened is the broth, the cloud, the nitrogen. The healthy species cannot compete. This pseudo species, that's the algae plume, and they've got you posture and groomed. Do you somehow think that this is natural occurring? It's not natural occurring. It's not. And you can read, all happens every, oh, no. This is an acute radical freaking phenomena that has really evolved radically in the last few years. I mean, it's happened in places before, but not like this, not even close like this. This is a catastrophe. In 2014, I'm walking, and all the sea lions and seals were starving to death and dying. I mean, I'm walking documented, and it's well documented that so many of them were full of leukemia. It's well documented. And so this catastrophe has been going on since 2011. It's a giant starvation event, the soup. So what happens? So the invasive species, and how many times have I called this out? You see the green mold or the black mold in the tide pools, and I call it out immediately. In every one of my tide pool videos, you'll say, oh, that's the invasive species. The invasive species cannot move in if the healthy species is there. Now, we call it scum, right? Mold, the blob, black mold. The Latin word is pseudo-Nietzsche. And so it's invasive. It's like the bioluminescence that showed up here that shouldn't be here. This should never be here. It cannot compete with the healthy species. I mean, it blows my mind. You go to Point Loma, and they charge you $25 to get in. There'll just be lines of tourists lined up in to get in Point Loma. And I've documented it heavily, and the tide pools are completely wiped out. But people are still going there. They're picking up a brittle star and thinking it's a sea star. I mean, it's a brutal event. But people are still lining up to go see dead tide pools. Blows my mind. And I've well documented the historic crash. It's just like your body. If your body's completely, really strong, physical, and healthy, and the younger you healthy are, these invasive species can't compete. Well, what's happened? The strong species goes away, so the weaker species, which we call scum, black mold, pseudo, it's getting in the fish. What causes demonic acid? Demonic acid attacks these animals. They're mammals. Their biology is 99%. It attacks their biology, gets into them, and attacks the brain. It's a neuro disorder. It's a horrible way to die. It's really nasty. These poor seals and dolphins, sea lions, whatever. And by the way, I want to tell people in California, you're trying to save all these sea lions right here. Okay? We've documented it. Congress passed a law in 2018 that Oregon can legally shoot sea lions for eating salmon. All sea lions, they naturally migrate to the mouths, especially the Columbia, all these rivers, because the salmon are coming home. That's where they feed. That's where they eat. It's a natural cycle. You're rehabbing them here. They're swimming here, and they're shooting them. And Tim Martin and I have freaking shot videos of them shooting them. And they can't do that. Yes, they can. Congress passed a law in 2018. This is your sicko, whacked out Congress. I mean, this is the Fukushima cover-up, the denial. The heat bubble here, all the fires, again, look up the Great Drought, started in 2011. The heat bubbles shifted here, all foretold by son of Cassandra, Kevin Blanche. You can go in denial with me all you want. You can go in denial all you want. I cannot believe, and somehow One is more than three, Winston. Two plus two. Remember Winston in 1984? Oh, well, I'm Balco. Two plus two is whatever we tell you it is, Winston. Um, um, Blanche. One meltdown at Chernobyl is more than three. It's whatever we tell you. It's more than 311. It's more than 9. It's more than 10. It's more than 7 Smith fuel pools. One core reactor at Chernobyl, which was nasty, which was graphite. It was a new reactor, no spent fuel pools. It was new. Is greater. They're still calling that the greatest nuclear. And you're so scared of the big Z. I'm the guy that named it the big Z. I've been to that reactor in Ukraine multiple times. Every other day, there's headlines, Big Z, we're afraid of nuclear. What about the one that did happen? You're afraid the one's going to happen. What about the one that did happen? Full blown out, 3 core meltdowns. Never happened at Mayak, never happened to Santa Susana, never happened at, what's Santa Susana in LA? What's never happened at 3 Mile Island? Never happened at Chalk River? You know, never happened to the Polygon? Never happened to Chernobyl? This is the first time in human history, full core meltdown, full blown out Delma Argentina syndrome. China syndrome. First time in history. And you're going to chalk it up. You're going to go along with coincidence. In science, coincidence does not get it. My gold medal, so I'll be back. The world record of dead tide pool jump, the most foremost upfront marine biologist probably in modern history. And if you don't believe me, you tell any other marine biologist, show me your work. To be a true scientist, you have to have field work. You absolutely have to have field work. You can hypothesize, you can lecture, you can write, you can do it. You have to have field work. I've got 12 years of field work. I don't eat, sleep, drink it. I sleep with it, including my own leukemia, my own open heart surgery. Look at my type of work alone. I'm boots on the ground. I'm all over the world doing this work. Perfectly good shirts that we make, Dell and I. Boy, it's on the money, isn't it? So this is Teller. This is a Teller quote. This is the ignition. Teller was the only thing Teller ever said was right with this quote. I got this in La Jolla, where Leo died, so from me, at the thrift store for $2. He's right. So was it simple in retrospect? Nope. The opposite of simple. Nasty. And you just want to bail them out. You're going to bail out TikTok, Diablo Canyon Clock. See a nuclear reactor on the Ring of Fire. I wrote paper after paper. Where's this going to happen? It's going to happen in Fukushima, Japan. It's going to happen in Pseudo-Nietzsche. It's going to happen in Diablo Canyon. They're built on the Ring of Fire. Now, we got Pseudo-Nietzsche shut down, Kevin Blanch and crew. One of the greatest accomplishments by grassroots activists in human history. They were never going to shut down. Without Kevin Blanch's cancer, they never shut down. They'll tell you. You'll go talk to them and say, well, Kevin Blanch had the goods on us. They're afraid of jail. Well, last time I heard, she don't believe me. She knows. Her mother, the epidemiologist at Livermore. And I love all everybody that's in denial about this. Oh, nuclear meltdowns don't hurt you. Nuclear fallout doesn't hurt you. Yes, it does. Just another coincidence, longevity in the United States in 2012 started going south. Cancer rates skyrocket. Now, granted, our treatment system's getting better, but cancer rates went psycho post 2012. Survival's getting so much better, our treatment's getting better, but you can chalk this all up to coincidence. So I'll get down there the next few days. You know, God, I was looking at the tide charts wrong. Oh, geez. I was thinking the low tide was going to be in the afternoon, but that was a.m., 3 o'clock. 4 o'clock a.m. Doesn't get sun up till 5:35, but we're going to get some low tides on the 4th, the 5th, the 6th, and the 7th. Early in the morning, but the sun will be up. I'll get them. So I'll be there, and I'm going to document these mammals dying. on the algae plume. So it's a nightmare. I can't believe you're going to deny the real science. I mean, it's right there. You cannot deny my work anymore. You could laugh at me. Blanche's hypothesis. Number one, I'm the only one that said they were full blown algae. Number two, everything that's happened, I predicted. Well, that's how I call it hypothesis. You have to do field work and prove your hypothesis, which I did. I walked the whole coast of sleeping in a sleep bag in critical condition multiple times, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours, and every historic tide pool had historic light tide. Didn't crop any of it, didn't have just organic rough like you're supposed to do. You defend your work. Then if it becomes the new knowledge, that's what it is. Me oh my no boat. I did everything I was supposed to do. What am I going to do? Work for Scripps, the Monterey Aquarium, stay in the university service so they can take my work and put it in the J store and lock it up, Aaron Swartz? No, I had to go rogue. It's the only way you look. And if you're a young person, you have to self-educate. You cannot educate at a university anymore. They will control your knowledge. You have to self-educate. You have to. Where else are we going to go? Well, YouTube starts. Where else was I supposed to go? I did what I had to do. I'm still doing it. About the weight of the world. It's not coincidence. This is a disaster, and it's not natural occurring. Pseudo. Pseudo means not genuine. Now, Kevin Blanche, oh, I'm genuine. It's a nightmare what's going on. I'm pushing across the globe, but so we're afraid of full-blown out meltdowns. We're afraid of full-blown out meltdowns until they happen. Then we ignore them. So let's see. Ring of Fire, San Onofre, Ring of Fire, Diablo Canyon, Ring of Fire. What? Trojan's been taken down long ago. So is Humboldt. So is San Onofre. They're in dry cast containers. I'm, trying to get it moved here. We'll see what happens. That's the last of the real thing. They're all off here. Japan, they're all offline. There's one left. TikTok, Diablo Canyon Clock. Now I got to get there too, get this work done. But this is a nightmare what's going on with the animals. It really breaks my heart. I'm sitting there at Pismo, I remember one time, and I'm calling the sills. Joe, the famous Channel Island photographer, drives all the way just to meet me. And I'm like, watch this. They're over there at Diablo. I'm standing on the Pismo. And I've been on all 54 piers, every one of them. I walked them. I've been on every California. The peer review of the piers. My favorite is Pismo. I mean, that old growth pier is grand. I'm standing on that pier, Blue Hearts on Valentine's, and there's a whole family. I never see a family of sills anymore. And I start calling them. Watch this, and I'm calling them. Here they come. The whole family turns, swims all the way across the bay. It's a long ways. Gets right underneath the pier, and they're up there just having a full-blown out conversation. There's mom, dad, brothers, sisters, grandpa, grandma, cousins. There's a huge family. And Joe's like, what are they saying to you? And I'm like, they're saying, save me. Fukushima killed our food. What are you saying? I'm trying. I'm trying. What are they saying? Try harder. What'd you say? Okay, I will. Big fish eat little fish. You broke the chain. So the healthy phytoplankton at the platonic level, this is the staff of life. That soup. God, every time I walk here, I'm looking, how crystal clear is these pools in this ocean? It just blows my mind. Looks like a mountain lake here in Utah. I mean, it's disturbing. And to think that I did all this work and I don't even live there. I mean, I've pseudo-fact lived there in a freaking sleeping bag. I'm the keynote speaker in these shutdown hearings, which blows my mind. You ask Peter. And then I sleep on the beach. Well, I'm full of cancer. What a story. What a path. But the healthy soup, the cloud, all that nutrition's in there's gone. So the invasive species, yeah, that's my emerging. I'm running out of places for emerging alert bracelets. I have 3 of them now. I have replaced aortic valve twice. I have a cadaver aortic root replacement. I have a pacemaker now. You know, I have my AML leukemia 1% survival bracelet. You know, Joe and those guys used to, in 14 and 2015, used to go to the Channel Islands and put the tags on the sick, rescued sea lions. And no one only let them put 1 orange tag on. They wanted to put 2. They went out there the one year and they tagged hundreds and hundreds of them. They only found 1 with an orange tag. They named him Blanche. So, but you forgot. So you're going to go lay on the beaches right there. You know, go get you a crab cocktail. Whoa, whoa. You're eating any fish or anything because there's no labeling that comes in. You know, you don't know where it comes from. That's, again, 2011 budget dealing. So you catch my drift? Stand tuned.